Let's see. Are we on now, Caitlin? Okay, great, because I'm still seeing the screen. I wanted to welcome all of you to our quarterly meeting of the Western Carolina Appalachian Dowsers. We appreciate you spending this time with us exploring the world of dowsing. Most people associate dowsing with the image of someone walking across the field with a bent willow stick, but it's much more than that. It's a tool to access your intuition. And I like to think of it as it's similar to the early days of television and radio, when if you didn't have an antenna, all you could see was a garbled and image and a lot of staticky. And it was only when you used an antenna that you could begin to pull in a clear signal. And that's what we do and with dowsing with the tools of L rods and pendulums. And our speakers today, we're fortunate to have two incredibly experienced dowsers who's been in the dowsing field for decades. And we meet quarterly on meetings like this to share together about dowsing. So we hope you join us for those future meetings. We meet quarterly in the third Saturday of February, May, August, and November. So look forward to May 16th for another one of our sessions where we will continue to explore this incredible world of your intuition. So I'd like to turn it over to our behind the scenes sort of wizard of technology, Caitlin Duffy, and she'll explain a few things about our today's session. Caitlin?
Thank you, Bill. Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Duffy. I'm excited to be supporting you all with tech support today to help you hear from Marty and Lee. Just wanted to mention a few quick things. First, if you're not familiar, we're meeting on the Zoom webinar platform. You may be joining from a desktop computer or from your phone. Wanted to let you know that there are a few functions that you should be aware of during our meeting today. One would be the chat function. You should be able to, at the bottom of your screen, see a little chat bubble. Feel free to use that as little or as much as you want. Some people find it distracting, so you may not want to open it at all. We may share some resource links there that may interest you. If you are having any tech issues, feel free. You can either message the whole group, or if you're having a tech issue, you may message me privately, and I'm happy to support you. I'll also call your attention if you do have a question, particularly for Lee or Marty following their presentation. There will be time for Q&A. You will see also at the bottom of your screen a little bubble. It has two chat bubbles that says Q&A. I see a few people asked some questions there. They asked whether this will be recorded. It is currently being recorded. And we can share a link following that. I can let Bill Lee say more about that. If you have other questions for Lee or Marty, and there's some others that you'll get to meet today, I encourage you to use the Q&A specifically for questions so that we can kind of keep those separate from the chat. And I think that's all I have, so I'll turn it back over to you, Bill.
Okay, thanks, Caitlin. Our presenters for today are Lee Barnes, who has his PhD in horticulture, and he's a longtime advocate of the whole permaculture movement. He's just recently he was honored by the American Society of Dowsers. That's the national organization of dowsers, as the Dowser of the Year. And previously he'd gotten the honor of Educator of the Year. And he's been dowsing, as I mentioned earlier, for decades. And he's well-known well dowser in the area. He's dowsed successfully for wells all over North Carolina and South Carolina. And so he brings a vast amount of knowledge and information about dowsing. And Marty Cain is an artist from the Boston area or the New England area. And I enjoyed her Christmas card this year, which included a lot of her artwork in it. It was really nice. And she's also has spent decades in with dowsing. She was introduced to dowsing by her grandfather, and that's a great story. When she was experiencing a sort of traumatic experience and as a child, and her grandfather took her aside and introduced her to dowsing. But she's also been, beside exploring earth energies, both here in the United States as well as in England and Britain, she's really involved with labyrinth designing, and she co-founded the National Labyrinth Society. And her labyrinths are everywhere from Hawaii to Canada, across the United States, even in Brazil and in South Africa. So she brings a long experience with dowsing, and also with the whole tradition of exploring the intuitive earth energies. So with that, I'd like to turn it over. We're really excited about today, and also honored to have two experienced dowsers of their quality with us. So I'll turn it over to Lee and Marty, and later we'll have Nancy Baumgartner will be joining us. She's also a longtime dowser that is really focused in on exploring the natural intuitive aspects of children. And so she'll be joining in at the question and answer time. So Marty and Lee, you're on. Thanks.
Okay, I guess they're coming to me. I'm not on full screen. Is that, there we go. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Bill, for that wonderful introduction. It covered all my points. I'll just stress that we had a request for a water dowsing lecture, and it's been a while since we've had one. And so I wanted to kind of combine that. Surveys show that 95% of the people that come to our meetings are chapter members. They're more into personal dowsing. They're not as interested in water dowsing. So I was wondering how many people would show up today. So I think I've tried to flip this into a combination TED Talk, what else was I called? Speed dating and stand-up comedy, or in this case, sit-down comedy. So the basic flow today is Marty and I will both present for 20 to 25 minutes. Then together with Nancy, we'll have questions and answers for the last hour. Our last couple of meetings, people have really enjoyed the question and answers, and that allow us to, meet your specific needs better. So everything I want to do here is going to take about an hour and a half, and I'm going to try to do it in 20 minutes. So that's why I call it speed dating. I've been involved in intuition since a teenager. Actually learning that the term dowsing was a form of applied intuition I learned about 25 years ago. I consider myself a professional well water dowser, done about 500 wells all over North Carolina, some in Tennessee, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia. I have a special interest in sacred sites, Native American sites, and also the stone circles in the British Isles. And I realized that dowsing would allow me to understand the subtle energies of these places. So what I want to stress, in case I don't get to all my points, is that we all have these natural abilities that we can access better by developing a system and dowsing consciousness. So some of the terms I've heard, dowsing, most people don't know. The motto of the national organization is Felix Indigo, which is the successful search. People also use questing, which I like, but a lot of people don't know what questing is. Nancy has been using profound awareness for a while. I've used applied intuition for a while. Acute awareness is what it is. We're tuning into a lot of information that our superconsciousness is accessible to, but we don't normally reach it in our conscious mind. One other term I'll use is situational awareness. I don't know if people have seen the Bourne trilogy movies, but this spy basically knows which cars have guns in them, or most likely. So he's been trained to be aware and pay attention to a lot of other things. So there's a new theory. I used to talk about Huna, which talks about the middle self, lower self, and higher self, which tends to explain dowsing to me. You have to go through your lower self, which is really accessing your super self. There's a new theory of the predictive mind, where most of our background mind is analyzing things and being aware, and the conscious mind only comes up at the point you need it for short-term questions. So we have one graphic I'll ask Caitlin to put up. It's a chart of that Nancy actually put together that I think explains a lot about dowsing. And it's a little confusing here. This is work done in the 80s and the 90s. On the left side, you see deep sleep, dreaming sleep, falling sleep. Basically, we recognize a number of brainwave patterns that can be measured. And during normal day and sleep, we go through the everything from beta, which is our conscious mind, to alpha, which is meditation, to to theta, which is a lot of dreaming, and then finally into delta, which is long wavelengths, where I think we're reaching out. So if you see at the four left boxes, that's the sequence from deep sleep to normal waking, from monkey mind down to reaching out to the universe. The three boxes on the right show two different types of meditators, and what's important to know is that they kick out with a lot of alpha, a little more theta, and the last box on the far right shows expert dowsers are basically in every one of these wavelengths, brain wavelengths, simultaneously in both hemispheres, and they're really kicking into the delta and the gamma. So to me, this is a major scientific evidence of what dowsing consciousness is. So that's we'll get that on our website. It's a little complicated, but basically dowsers are hip to things. So you can also look up Mind Mirror on the internet. So, okay. The ways you get into that dowsing consciousness varies with individuals. Some people do a slight meditation. I like to do a prayer to the site and the spirit and beings of place, so I connect in with them. You can also take a tool. This is an L-rod, and I'll show you a couple others. I know it doesn't show well on the screen, but I start here. Let me get a pendulum. I'm skipping ahead, but I just have so much time. A pendulum can be used. I'm fully controlling it. I've got it trained to move one way to indicate yes, another way to indicate no. And after about 10 years into this, I found out I needed to ask a better question answer. So tools range from the staff, the Pharaoh, to Y rods, the Y-shaped willow rods that most people might know about dowsing. That came in the 1400s. Pendulums go back to the Egyptians at least 3,000 years. And the bottom line is you are the measuring device in my belief system, and it doesn't matter what tool you use, it's how consistently you use it. And ultimately you want to learn body dowsing. So you don't need the tools, that you sense it in your body. And for me, I feel it in my heart chakra. I get a spin one way for a yes, another way for a no. Other people respond by gargling, leaning forward, kinesiology, different things. So that varies. And if somebody's doing it differently than you, don't worry about it as long as they're consistent. And Marty does things very differently from me. And I think she touches into the spirit of place and beings better than I do. So somehow one of my pages is mixed up, but water dowsing, in case those who signed in wanted to hear about water dowsing, you can address that better in Q&A. Uses the entire range of intuitive abilities. And I simplify that into 3 different classes. Field dowsing, which is dowsing electromagnetic fields for the most part or within vision. Distant dowsing, non-local dowsing, remote viewing, and making change at a distance. So I'll go in more details about that in just a second. So you want to dowse, develop a system so that you are relaxed, you're in a dowsing consciousness, you learn to ask an absolutely clear question. Vague questions get vague answers. Google a question 3 or 4 different ways, you can get 3 or 4 different answers. So to me, one of the benefits of me learning dowsing is to ask a better question. And that's critical to get clearer answers. So the next step is to figure a way that you can sense this in your body, and that yes is always yes. It doesn't change with the phases of the moon or eclipses or anything. And no is always no until you change it. So I co-create with my tool and my super self. And the bottom line, well, 2 more steps: relax and allow. That's the British Societies of Dowsers that suggested that. Don't force it. Don't have a hidden agenda. So just an example of how I use intuition in my dowsing. I'm measuring energy fields around lots of things, but flowing water and I think fractures in the bedrock. And I can show you how to do that easily. I've had classes of about 1,000 students and only a handful of people couldn't get a response over water flowing through a hose. So I think it's a very natural ability. You can also find subtle differences in the earth where people have dug ditches, put in pipes, put in lines, graves, these sort of things. And we can this is a cheap compass, pocket compass. 50 people tested could sense a magnetic field 100th the strength to move this little needle, a good dowser 1,000th. So basically, I've sensitized myself to these subtle energies, and then I can discover energies and auras around trees, between trees, things that people call energy lays, that sort of thing. And I believe everything is interactive and conscious, and I think Marty will go into that more. Distant dowsing is where you resonate with a person, place, thing at a distance. It's like 2 tuning forks or 2 cell phones. They can connect. There's a standing wave that forms between them, and you can get information at a distance. Remote viewing. When I'm water dowsing, I'm estimating depth and quality. I think this is something I'm doing through the ground with a distance that is capable. Anyone can do it. I also do a little map dowsing of hurricanes where I look where they're at now and try to track them for 2 or 3 days. And part of it, my mind, I'm a meteorologist by passion. So I've studied the old records. I know that. But my supercomputer is going out there and predicting something in the future based on past. And the highest level of dowsing that I recognize is that you can make change at a distance. And with water well dowsing, there are dowsers that actually can divert the flow of underground water in certain rock types to increase water flow into a well. And there are people that do all sorts of remote energy work. And you're not supposed to heal or diagnose or treat, but you can do energy work, and I'm convinced that this works. So for personal dowsing, that's what most of you are probably into. It's still the same thing. Clearer question, have a good consistent response, and relax. If you don't think you can douse something because you're frustrated, ask someone to do dowsing, blind dowsing for you. Only time I can't douse is when I get real frustrated and can't find my car keys. And if I can relax, it happens. Turn away, it comes to me. So the paths to better intuition is to trust yourself and that you're getting information from your super self. People ask me, who are you asking the question of? Well, in my belief system, I'm connected to the universe, so I'm asking it of, everything I possibly can connect to. Learn to ask better questions. Make sure you have consistent responses. One tool may not work, and relax and allow. So how's my time going? My timer went off.
I think you're maybe about 15 minutes in, Lee.
Okay. So
that sound right, Marty? Yep.
So like I said, I wanted to shoot through these because I'm trying to sneak in at one of my dowsing classes, which I haven't done in a while. We need to find a more socially acceptable word for that people can relate to versus just dowsing. Dowsing intuition is another one that is kind of jumping into me that people might, combine the two. And in my sense, this is easy to do because I've been doing it for 25 years or more. And it feels natural. I don't have to pull tools out now. If I need to find something in my office, I go into a dowsing consciousness, reach my hand over, and there it is. So is it where part of my brain remembered where I last saw it, or am I resonating with it? I don't care. It works. So that's good. So the quick summary on water dowsing, and we can go more into this. What I do is walk a site. I've looked at maps and aerials beforehand. I talk to the clients, make sure I know where the septic system are and, what's going on. I think I find fractures in the bedrock, and that's where we get the most water in Western North Carolina. We're crystalline bedrock. And I know in Haywood County, we've got 16 different rock types, and they all fracture at different patterns and have different water transfer abilities. So I like to know the science stuff, but I think you can do it without that. It's just the tuning in and awareness and strong focus. So I like to find multiple fractures, big ones, small ones. I can tell that by the pull of rod and also by marking. I estimate depth by just a counting technique. Is it more than 300 feet down to the major water? Well, I've got a criteria where I'm looking for year-round water, palatable, potable, cost-effective, 2 or 3 other things. So my mind is focused not on just any water, but for good permanent water, water for life, basically. So I estimate gallons per minute and depth by a counting technique. Is it more than 200 feet down, more than 300 feet down to the major water? Other dowsers will find, you'll get a gallon at this depth and farther down, but I just basically get the maximum amount of water you can get at that site so that people can, budget whether they want to go that deep. Gallons per minute is just like, I use the idea that a carpenter could look at a board and tell you whether it's a 6 foot or it's longer than a 6 foot or shorter than an 8 foot. So you're bracketing. So I asked for the yield at the surface. Is it more than, a gallon a minute? Yes. More than 5 gallons a minute? Yes. More than 6 gallons a minute? No. So bracketing. And this is my technique. What I'd like to learn is just have that number come up and boom, it's in my head and I'll get there. Many times I go to a site and lay my pack down right where I end up choosing to site the well. I also check quality, which is a little bit more of a personal. I go a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the best water. And if I get very low numbers, 4s and 5s, I expect it might be sulfur or iron. And then you can ask individual questions. And then you can try to find another fracture that may not, have that. And there are people that mentally remove contaminants from water. So I think it's possible. And then lastly, I do casing depth, which is the solid pipe that goes down that most people would see as a well, 5 feet into a solid rock. So I'm estimating something that the driller has to decide when the rock is solid enough. So I'm estimating something in the future that someone else has an opinion about. So that's pushing the universe, but I seem to be fairly successful at it. We can go into more specific water well dowsing information in the Q&A. There's several links that will be available. Once again, I suggest you go to the Appalachian Dowsers or wncdowsers.org to follow with what we're doing in the next speakers. The 3 links, one is a podcast and one is a video of a couple dowsing classes I did. So Caitlin is adding the Dream Freedom Beauty, which is the first podcast which I did, which I was anxious as hell about, but I think I got through it. And then Living Web Farms did a nice series of my basic dowsing class. First part of it, I think, is about 40 minutes. The second part is a little longer. And those are all available online. And then Marty will have some really good videos and things to suggest after her presentation. So once again, go out and do it. Learn how to help yourself, learn how to help others. We really need people to learn to be professional water dowsers. So that's my short timer.